So let's chat about scarcity and how this could be holding you back from finding the love of your life. And yeah, a lot of people associate scarcity with money, but scarcity can be applied to pretty much everything because it's a mindset. So scarcity can involve money, relationships, happiness, you name it. And so when we say the mind is everything, what you think you become, it is quite literally true. And if you think this is some hippy dippy BS, well, there are plenty of like behavioral scientists at Yale and Stanford and Harvard and little tiny schools like that that have done massive studies to prove this otherwise. So one was done in Stanford with children, and the belief that they were given or was like brought into two separate groups is one group believed that intelligence was what you're born with. The other group believed that intelligence was something you could grow. And of the children that believed that this was something that was built into them, they really struggled when academic hurdles came their way. When the children who believed that any kind of growth is possible with inside of, intelligence, the more you learn, the more you become, they were the ones that succeeded the most in school and struggled the least with academic hurdles. There was another study done at Yale with middle-aged adults, and they were split into two groups. One group had the belief that was very negative about aging, and the other group was split into all the people that had really positive beliefs about aging. And they studied them over a long course of time. And guess what? The people that had the belief that had more positivity surrounding aging lived on average 7.5 years longer than the other group. So if that doesn't show you that the mind is a powerful tool in our beliefs that become our actions, that become our world, then we need to do some reorienting here. You know what I'm saying? So in essence, your mindset could actually prolong your life, which is a wild thought, but it can also dictate your level of happiness, your ability to succeed, and your ability to find love. Now, the reason why this topic comes up is because I talk to clients all the time about their mindset, and they want to tell me that it's everybody else's issue, that it's the dating apps, that it's the men, that it's society. But when I really dig down, their belief of their ability to find love is rooted in scarcity, especially people who believe that there's only one perfect person for you out there, which is a scarcity mindset. Because of 7 billion people in the world, to believe that only one person is your perfect person, what are the statistical chances that you're going to meet that person? So your expectations of your ability to be happiness are so distant from what the reality actually is that you're probably living in scarcity and not allowing the abundance mindset to bring new people into your life. And actually, the concept of scarcity, I first read about, if you remember this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, this is where that conversation of scarcity came in. And the book explains it that you will look at life like a finite piece of pie. And if someone takes too big of a pie, then that means that there's a lot less for you to have. And that, in essence, is what the scarcity mentality is. So if your filter on the world is rooted in a limiting belief that your ability to find love and maintain love is very difficult, or it will never happen, or love only happens to other people, guess what will happen? It won't happen. It will only happen to other people. Because if we keep blaming everybody else, then we're coming up with this narrative that there is no love in the world. So let's say we say there are no good men out there, but then every day we're being shown that there are good men and that there are people being treated well. So that goes right out the window. And if you say that society's the problem, but then you see love stories happening every day, then that's sort of X'd out. Or if you say dating apps are the worst and no one ever finds love on there. Well, people do find love on dating apps every day, but you don't. So now you've created this little bubble of your beliefs that all these good things happen to other people, just not me. And this mindset is the number one reason why people stay single, but then continually blame other people. And I'm a big proponent of taking ownership over our life. Now, I struggled with scarcity. I still struggle with scarcity. It's something that I have to come back to all the time because there were certain beliefs that I grew up with that made me believe that we have to hoard our money and like, you're never going to make enough. And so I always have to be careful of it and I shouldn't spend and I just have to hold. And it kept me playing really, really, really small. Now, I never had limiting beliefs in terms of love and relationships because I just never really thought about it like that. So when I look back in, my years prior, I just had a bad idea of who I was picking because I was dysfunctional in different ways. But when I started to apply the scarcity mindset to everything else, that's when life started really shifting for me. So let's talk about some signs about how to tell if you have a scarcity mindset, whether it's in relationships or in love or in career, whatever, because you can apply this video in every single avenue, even though we're just talking about scarcity in relationships today. Okay, one thing of it's a sign of scarcity is that you believe in fate. And that what I mean by believing in fate is that you believe there's already a destiny that's created that you can't change. So everything is happening to you instead of you happening to it. And you don't believe there's any way to change what's already happening in your life because that's just how it's supposed to be. Or number two could be you've perfected the art of waiting for the other shoe to drop, that you believe that anytime something is going well, that you're destined to have something bad happen to you. So every time you're happy, you're almost like anxious because you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Another one is that you're envious of others or jealous of others, or you get annoyed by others' success. So let's say you're scrolling through social media and you see another one of your friends got engaged, or another friend of yours had a baby, or somebody's posting a new relationship, and you're just like, oh, whatever. Why do you have to post about it? And you're almost like annoyed by it. That's something that is also can be rooted in scarcity. Another one is that you believe most situations are permanent and say things like, well, that's just the way it is. And you just sort of like take it in lumps instead of changing our frame of mind and seeking to find an alternative way around things. Another one that might seem a little bit more obvious, but can be difficult to recognize when you're doing it yourself is limiting language belief patterns that are rooted in scarcity. So things like, oh, I'm not going to reach out to him because I'm not pretty enough, or it's impossible to find somebody, or there's no good guys out there. There's no one good left. There's not enough left for me, right? All the good ones are taken. Those are all very limiting language beliefs, or I'm just going to end up alone anyways, or any of those language patterns. I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. I don't have enough. There's not enough. Those are all rooted in scarcity. Another one that's a little bit more surprising is overindulgence, which can seem a little counterintuitive. The thing about overindulgence is there's this this need to finish and get it all right now because you don't think there will be more later. So it's like food, sex, eating, whatever, money. It's like you can get the bonus check and spend it right away. Or you get this guy and then you jump right into bed with them and then you just want to keep going because you don't think there's going to be any more left. And then you sort of like have this anxiety about everything and then end up overindulging and then regretting it afterwards. A couple more are that you're constantly comparing yourself to others and that your happiness or ability to see your self-worth or self-esteem is rooted in comparison to those around you instead of against yourself. So that when things aren't going well or you see other people succeeding above you, you go into a spiral because your existence is only good compared to other people, which is a very slippery slope. And then the last one I'll talk about is that you are full of negative reasons why you don't reach your goals. Like the scarcity mindset is an oxymoron paradox, right? Where you crave the success, but you find many reasons to not get it. So it's almost like you punish yourself in the self-sabotage sort of cycle. And then you'll have all these reasons to go after something, but then you find all the reasons to not do it. But then you go into victim mode when you see other people get that goal. So you'll be like, oh, I'm going to change my mindset. I'm going to hire a coach. I'm going to go get a guy. And then you end up just going on Bumble and then you swipe and then you're like, this sucks. And I'm not doing it anyways because it's so difficult. And then you see your friend who dedicated more time, who hired a coach, who made a spreadsheet of all the people that they were talking to. And you thought that that was crazy, is now in a relationship, So this is another way that we can start to identify scarcity mindsets and limiting belief patterns and all of that stuff that's holding us back from being happy and successful. Here's the good news. Scarcity mindset is not something you're born with. It's something that's created. So you have the ability to change this. It is your responsibility of how you show up in the world and how you view the world. So if you want to have an abundant mindset, guess what, baby doll? You can have it. You just have to do the work to shift and change. And there's always going to be these reflexes sometimes. We can always go into darker places and then we kind of have to come back to the things and practices and mindsets and things that keep us whole and sane. So if you find yourself identifying with that list of things that I suggested about, how you're living in a scarcity mindset, let's talk about how we switch to one of abundance. So the first thing I tell all my clients to is to start by focusing on what you do have. It might seem very simple. It's a reframe. It's a paradigm shift. Now, if you go on a date and it doesn't turn into a relationship, you have a couple of options. You could go home and be like, oh my God, I'm so lonely. Nothing ever works out for me. It's so hard out there. I'm never going to find somebody, blah, 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 blah. And then this can cloud your perspective, put you in a funk. You don't go back on the apps. You don't want to meet anybody. You're like doing work and you're just kind of like pouting and you're in this little pity party. And now you've wasted a bunch of time renting space to somebody that just isn't right for you, versus like, hey, that didn't work out, but look at what I do have. I have my great home. I have all these wonderful friends. I have this great career, or fill in the blank of things that you do have, instead of focusing on what you don't, because then that will start to expand your mindset. And then it will help you not get stuck when things don't go perfectly well, because you know that there are more options out there. So this is one thing you can start to do to start to flip the script. Now, on the heels of that practice of like shifting your focus, it's important to include gratitude into your daily life. And if you look at what you already have, you will realize you always have more. And so that's why it's important to say, hey, I have a great mattress I sleep on. It seems pretty silly, right? But like some people don't even have a mattress. I have my health. Maybe you're really healthy. I have this wonderful family or support group, or I have a home with heat, even simple things. I have fresh and clean water to drink. I think we take for granted all of these amazing things that we get to have, where we don't need to necessarily worry about where our next meal is going to come from. What a blessing that is, and we take that for granted every single day. So if you start to write a list, just 5 things every morning when you wake up. I'm happy for and grateful that I have this. I'm grateful that I have this. I'm grateful for the opportunities that I could, if I wanted to, be anything I wanted to in many ways, or just whatever it is. Just write your gratitude out every morning so you start your day with a renewed perspective. The next is to train your brain to recognize the possibilities. So there was a really interesting study done at Harvard where they found that if you focus really hard on one particular thing, it actually will block out all the other possibilities of a solution or other options, and they go completely unnoticed, because the brain starts to delete, distort, and generalize when it gets overwhelmed with too much emotion or too many opportunities or too many pieces of information. So the brain can quite literally only process 7 pieces of information plus or minus, depending upon what your organizational skills are in your brain. So it's difficult if you're only focusing on very negative things. Your brain actually can't see the other possibilities. So if you only see very intently that there are no good guys out there and dating is terrible, you will never be able to see the other possibilities that are completely surrounding you. So it's important to start noticing other possibilities. Expand your mind, like loosen your focus almost, and create an expanded awareness. I always say, you could do samurai vision, which is like a really simple thing where you stare at a point in the wall and start to just notice the peripheral things around you. And your focus will start to loosen a little bit. You'll start to notice like, oh, wow, I can see the color of the walls around me, or different sunlight moving. And this is the same awareness we need to have on a daily basis, where it's more expanded than it is hyper-focused. And lastly, I would suggest like giving back and volunteering. I think one of the most humbling experiences for me was when I was going through all my back surgeries and I couldn't walk, and I was in the hospital alongside people who were dying, or, like had no opportunities to ever get better. And even though I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to walk the same again, like seeing people that were disfigured from burns or like dismembered from accidents. There was a woman next to me that broke every single bone in her body, and they didn't know she was going to make it. And she lost her husband in the accident. It was like, oh my God. I was like, my life is not that bad. I was like, I'm going to get out of this bed. I'm going to make something of my life. And that contrast really changed things for me. And when I started building my practice and giving back to other people that were in pain, it actually made me feel more opportunities, and it made me feel hopeful for the future. So like, go volunteer, go surround yourself with people that are less fortunate, because it'll start to make you realize like, God damn, you have a lot going for you. And this is an abundant world, and you need to live in an abundant mindset, because there is so many opportunities every single day, and you get to make them. And that is such an empowering idea, instead of this limiting limiting belief that just everything just happens to you and you don't have a control over it, like screw that. So I will tell you this, if you are struggling with this and you are having a tough time, one of the best ways to push through this is to have an accountability partner. I work with this every day with clients. And I think it would be very important for you to switch this mindset and understand that you are in control of your destiny and you get to create these decisions. And it just starts with working through some of them with somebody that's accountable, that wants to believe and understands that you will be successful. And sometimes just that simple switch of like going all in with a coach can change your life forever. So if you're struggling with this, contact me, honey. I would love to help you. The world is full of endless possibilities.